Welcome to the Life and Business Mastery Podcast. If you want to start and grow a business to 7 or 8 figures, you're in the right place. We interview everyday business heroes to learn more powerful wisdom, habits, and strategies that you can use to experience more impact, greater freedom, and better results in your life and business. So, get ready for the inside scoop of what it really takes to build the business of your dreams. With your host, Alethea Gallegos.
Today's guest is a serial entrepreneur that consistently starts companies to support small business owners and fellow entrepreneurs. He has supported over 100,000 small business owners over the past 10 years. He is a sales and marketing genius and uses an extremely practical and proven approach. His no-nonsense style to sales and marketing allows non-marketers and non-salespeople to thrive when it comes to scaling their business. He is disrupting sales by helping people to learn integrity-based human influence so they can see what they don't see about the fun, excitement, and magic of exponentially growing their sales. He is the co-founder of UNBLINDED and the founder of Synduit. He is a family guy. It means everything to him, and he has structured his life and his business to ensure that he can be there to enjoy the precious moments with his beautiful wife, Lindsay, their daughter, Taylor, and son, Riker. And he is incredibly loyal. He is fiercely competitive, and he is a master at strategic alliances. Welcome to the show, Jared Yellin.
Well, thank you for that beautiful intro. I'm excited, Alethea. You are absolutely in your zone with this podcast. Meant to do this at such a high level. Your audience should feel blessed to have you, because I know when you commit to something, you commit at 150%, and this podcast will be nothing less than that. So it's my honor and my pleasure to be present with you, and I want to share as much value as I can with you and your audience as well.
Jared, thank you. I love, I receive that, and it's true. I feel blessed and honored to be able to do this and to showcase people like yourself. Like, what you've done is amazing and remarkable, and we're going to get into that. We're going to be talking about specific strategies that people can use to make more money, have more time, experience more magic, like Jared likes to say. Before we get into that though, Jared, could you just tell us a little bit about how you got started as an entrepreneur and your journey with Synduit?
Yeah, I'd love to. So when I was 20 years old, I had this almost like an epiphany moment. I had this like deep realization, and I became very aware of the one guarantee in my life, which was I was going to be a dad. Not at that time, but I knew that was going to happen. And my parents went through a really bad divorce when I was younger. I'm sure there was plenty of worse divorces than my parents, but it was definitely pretty bad. And I wanted to guarantee that my future family wouldn't have to experience what I did as a child. So I remember that day when I had this realization, thinking to myself, well, what does it mean to be a dad? And what came to me was this burning desire, this non-negotiable, which was to have the complete freedom to do whatever I wanted, as often as I wanted, and wherever I wanted with my future children. Like, that was the rule for me. That was the only way that I would exist as a dad, was when I knew that I could have that freedom to be present with them. And I started thinking to myself, well, what's my road to get there? And the only path that I could see was entrepreneurship. So fast forward to today, like you shared with in your beautiful intro of me, I'm 35 years old. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter named Taylor and a 1.5-year-old son named Riker. And I have that life. So I have the complete freedom to be present with them. I work, so I never miss a thing with them. I run multiple companies, and at the foundation of every company I run is this very real, it's called freedom. And it's not just for me, it's for every person that I touch. So over that 15 years, I have launched many companies. I've had a few strong exits. And today I have a holding company that has a whole variety of different types of businesses, but 2 of which get my attention. One, like you alluded to, is Synduit, which is going on its 9th year as we speak. And then the other is a more recent venture called UNBLINDED. And UNBLINDED is only a few months old as a company. and has accelerated unlike anything that I've touched before. So it wasn't always like rainbows and butterflies. It was definitely an interesting and challenging journey to get to where I am. And I'm sure that the future will also be riddled with challenges along the way. But I'm crystal clear on what's most important to me. And every decision I make is through that lens. So it makes decision making really simple for myself. So I'm happy to go into any detail you want on either of the companies or previous things that I've done. But that's been my evolution to get to where we are today.
I love this. And I think what you said, like being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, with your kids, with your family, I think that is like the heart and soul of so many entrepreneurs. That's why they get into it. That's why they want to do business a lot of times. It's also their passion, right? They do something around their passion, but that's what they're really looking for. They're looking for freedom. And that is something that you focused on and that you created your life around. And I mean, you're busy like with Synduit and with Unblinded. There's a lot of stuff going on. So how do you make that balance between work and family?
Yeah, great question. So I'm fanatical about it. It is the firmest boundary on the planet, and because I'm so firm on those boundaries, everybody respects those boundaries, and they learn to create boundaries in their lives as well. So a number of years ago, I realized that when you're an entrepreneur like me and like many of you that are listening to this, you get exposed to like an abundance of opportunities. And like everything sounds good and interesting and potentially worthwhile. So I have an initial filter, and that initial filter is, will this opportunity make me bleed or make me sweat? And what I mean by that is for many years, I muscled my way to success. And I got there because I'm crazy and fanatical and competitive, like you said. So I got there, but I was like bumped and bruised and like bloody when I got to the finish line or the starting line, however you want to look at it. And I realized that that's not the way I want to live my life. So I'm willing to sweat. I'm just not willing to bleed. So sweat is hard work. So the initial filter is, well, is this sweat or is this blood? And if it's blood, I just don't even consider it. And if it's sweat, I do consider it. But then the next question I ask is, will this create more time for my family or less time? And if it's less time, I just don't pursue it. And I don't care how big or how exciting or how interesting the opportunity is. It just isn't worth it for me because I did not choose entrepreneurship to have anything less than what I have today. So every decision I make has to contribute and create more. And that's not just more money. It's really just more magic. It's more freedom. It's more experience with my family. And it makes decision making easy. When you're that clear on your values and you're firm on your boundaries, it really allows decisions just to flow. So some of those boundaries are 5 o'clock every day, no matter what, I'm dad. And I am dad until those kids go to sleep. And with the current corona situation and homeschooling, they tend to negotiate a little bit of extra time at night because they know they don't have to be up early for school. So until 8 or 8:30 at night, I am full out dad. There's not one phone call. There's not one email. There's not one text message, nothing. And everybody on each of the teams that I support, they honor it. And they now live with boundaries as well, which allows them to have it all. So I have other things as well, but those are like the firm boundaries with regard to time and then decision making too.
That's awesome. I think that a lot of our listeners don't have boundaries. You know, they don't, you get into it and you go, you know what, there's going to be a time period where I need to sacrifice. There's going to be a time period where I need to be all hands on deck, you know, get this up, get this running, get this scaling, but you can quickly slide into that as a lifestyle, right? Because there's always going to be something. There's always going to be something urgent, always going to be something important. And we're going to come to process mastery later, which helps with that. But having something that's non-negotiable and then everything starts to fall in place because you're making decisions based on that. I think that is beautiful.
And it's a huge thing. Like you mentioned, like most people don't have boundaries. And the reason I believe that's the case is because most people live their life for everyone but what's most important to them. And that's that whole concept. And like, it sounds cliche, but it's not. And I'm a very practical person, as you know. It's really getting clear on what's most important to you and not what other people think is most important to you. So it's not that I like have every person honoring my boundaries. I mean, I have plenty of people that don't know what my boundaries are, and they try to project what's most important to them into my world, which I'm open as long as it doesn't invade with my boundaries, because my boundaries allow me to protect my highest values. And some of you might say, well, I'm just not there yet. Like, I'm not there yet. I haven't made the money I want. I don't have the freedom. I'm working 2 jobs. I get all of that, but it doesn't mean that you don't have clarity around what's most important to you and your non-negotiables. And that's key. And I always have. And that's the reason I got to where I am. And what I find is that the people that don't have that firm, like, line in the sand, like, these are my boundaries, these are my non-negotiables, they never get what they want, ever. Because it's always about other people projecting what's most important to them, and then that infiltrating your life, and now you're living your life based on what's most important to other people versus what's most important to you. And that's not selfish, that is selfless, because when you're clear on what's most important to you and it's in service of making a difference, you will make a dramatically bigger difference by staying in your lane versus getting distracted by other people's lanes.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. I think everybody can hear your certainty and your commitment, and we love it. It's awesome. All right, let's go back to Unblinded. So it's really interesting how you got connected with this. Why don't you walk us through that story?
Yeah, so the story is actually fascinating. So one of my companies is called Synduit, and Synduit is the simplest marketing software in the world that is pre-populated with content for 30 industries. And the company has grown very quickly in the past 3.5 years. We've grown to tens of thousands of paying users. And about a year ago, I had this epiphany, which was I didn't want to be the face of the company any longer. I felt, I guess you can kind of say, like, out of integrity to some degree, because one weekend I'd be speaking at a travel event, and then the next weekend I'd be speaking at a real estate event, and then the next weekend a chiropractic event, and then a functional medicine event, etc. And I felt that I was not the right person to represent Synduit in that industry. And I'll never forget, I went to this travel event, and there was this amazing speaker, and she was standing on stage, galvanizing energy, and she made and the comment was, "We will unite and we will take down orbits." And the room went wild. Like, all these travel agents were just going like nuts, like, we're taking our rightful place on planet Earth. And I thought to myself, I would love to make that statement, but I would need to make it in integrity. Like, I'd have to make it based on the fact that I'm, like, thinking fanatically about how to have travel take down orbits. And in full integrity, I don't think about that. It never crosses my mind. So I went up to her after she was done presenting, and I said to her, what would it take for you to make that statement but sell this platform? And her exact words were, nothing. And I'm like, well, come on. Like, let's say nothing wasn't an option. Like, what would it take? And she goes, ownership. And I'm like, interesting. Well, thank you. And I went back and I was thinking to myself, I was flying back home. My family was with me. And I was like thinking, like, ownership. Like, what does that mean? Like, what does she actually want to own? Like, does she want to, like, own the entire company outright? I'm like, probably not, because, like, there's a lot of complexity to building and scaling a software company. So I don't think that's what she wants. And then it hit me. And I said, I think what she wants is ownership of the industry, like ownership of the platform within that industry. And I said to myself, we have to start private labeling the software and then have a version of the software in every single industry. So there's a founder of our platform industry by industry. And literally we just got to work like that and we built it. And today we have 12 different versions of our software and continuing to grow industry by industry, which is very exciting because I'm no longer the face of Synduit in any of those industries. So in August of this past year of 2019, for the first time in about a decade, I had bandwidth because I wasn't the face of the company anymore. And the universe said, if you have bandwidth, we're going to fill it very quickly. And I was introduced to a gentleman named Sean Callaghy. And Sean, his background is he's an attorney. And he's not just any attorney. He's probably the most influential attorney in the country. He's built a massive firm over the past 20 years. They have 6 offices, a few hundred people on their team. And what makes them so unique and influential is that they take on the David versus Goliath cases, contingency cases that no one would take on because the chances of David winning are nothing, but David should win. And he almost always wins, Sean. And the reason he's so effective is because when he first became an attorney, which is nearly 20 years ago, he graduated from law school and he knew with certainty he'd be an amazing attorney. Certainty. But what he wasn't as sure of was whether or not he could sell himself as an attorney. So he started studying every single sales formula and sales strategy and communication technique and everything he could find. And after all of his self-education, he realized there was something missing. Like these formulas just weren't complete. These formulas made him feel uncomfortable. So he said to himself, I'm going to create the formula of formulas. I'm going to use it in my law firm. And what he created about 20 years ago is called integrity-based human influence. And integrity-based human influence is leveraging the science around influence, because there's an enormous amount of science present, while always remaining in integrity in any sales process, whether it's one-on-one or one-on-many. And integrity is defined as, is this person better with me or without me? And if they're better with me, it's my moral responsibility to help them see what they don't see so that they can say yes. And if they're better without me, it's my moral responsibility to refer them to someone else. So he started to deploy this in his law firm, and his firm became one of the most influential in the country as a result. Well, fast forward to about 3 years ago, many of Sean's corporate clients started to approach him, and they said, hey, Sean, like, what are you doing to achieve these outcomes? Because between 2014 and 2016, Sean won 2 top 100 national jury verdicts for his firm. That's only happened once in history, and he did it twice in 3 years. Like, that's somewhat unheard of. And he said, oh, it's integrity-based human influence. So these companies said, well, I don't know what that is, but can we hire you to come in and teach our teams? And he did. And he did it just to see if he could. Could he transfer the knowledge that he's been able to share with all of his employees and his partners and his paralegals? And he went into these companies and he led this corporate sales training. And every one of these companies, Lethea, said, Sean, this is hands down the single greatest sales training we've ever experienced. So this is the best. And these are companies that invest millions and millions of dollars a year into corporate sales training. So for Sean, it validated his work. And then this past summer, he woke up in August and he had this epiphany. And he said to himself, I want a mainstream integrity-based human influence. I want the world to know what I know. And the reason he had that epiphany was because he turned 50 this year. His kids are either in college or going to college, and his law firm is pretty much on autopilot. So he had the bandwidth to think that way. And that's when Sean and I were united. And what's really interesting, and then I'll turn it back to you, Lethea, so you can go whatever direction you want with this, is when I first met Sean, I loved him as a human. He's a man of he's a man of faith. He's a father. He deeply cares about people. But the one thing that I did not love is the fact that he taught sales. And the reason that that didn't land well with me when we first met, other than the fact that I didn't see it coming, like I knew that he is an attorney and he's also legally blind. So those are the two things I knew about Sean, but I did not know that he taught sales training in any capacity. But when he shared with me that he did, it was a complete turnoff because I've probably invested about $2 million in my life into like professional and personal development. And I've done every sales program that you can find. And every one of them has left me feeling like I should just teach the course because I really know how to sell. And what I've seen so far are people that are sharing things that are impractical, too much pressure, too much manipulation, too much closing. Like who would want to close their mom? Like no one. And that's like disruptive, right? So I just don't like the terminology. So when I first heard Sean share with me that he teaches sales, my default was he's just another one of those guys. And then he felt that energy on the call and he said, do you mind if I share what makes me different? And I said, please, we have 27 more minutes to go, so I'd love to hear. And he went into his formula, integrity-based human influence. And it was the coolest experience, Lethea, because Sean literally lit my unconsciousness. What he was sharing with me that day is what I've always done from a sales perspective. I just didn't have words to attach to it. I didn't know there was a process and a formula. I could get the outcome, but I couldn't teach anyone else how to get the outcome. And I've trained and hired dozens and dozens of salespeople over the years in all of my companies. And I've always gotten very frustrated because I would tell them, see what I see, feel what I feel, say what I say. And they would say like, what do you see? What do you feel? And I'm like, what do you mean? You don't feel it? You don't see it? They're like, see what? Like, what is he talking about? And I would always think to myself, they just can't sell. The reality was I can sell, I just can't teach sales. So when Sean and I met, I was immediately gravitating to him as a man, as a father, but now also as the single greatest trainer on the planet when it comes to influence and sales. And that was the beginning of the story. And then from there, we've launched the company and we could talk more about that, but it's a beautiful connection. What we're doing is making sales fun, exciting, and magical for every person on the planet.
Well, we can definitely feel your fun and excitement. Like you have such energy behind you. You're just this powerhouse, which is awesome. I hear a few things that are woven throughout this story. I hear integrity. Like you wouldn't stand on stage and say those things like that travel agent in that travel conference was saying because it wasn't in integrity. And the fact that you were like, okay, how can I give her exactly what she wants? And you were willing to step out of the limelight. You were willing to innovate your company, white label, and find industry leaders to take this out into the marketplace where they're in integrity to be the face of the company in that industry, which is amazing. Frees you up some time. And again, just woven throughout what you do, I just hear integrity and like that sales. To me, it's fascinating that you really disliked sales trainers and sales training because you love sales. It's a passion for you. You love marketing. You love sales. You're fantastic at both of them. But to have such a resistance towards it, and it speaks to your character. It speaks to your character because you did not like the manipulation. You did not like how people felt. You did not like a lot of the aspects that traditional sales training and trainers use. And you stuck to your integrity of how you show up in the world in a sales conversation. And I think that's awesome. But so you found some synergy with Sean and with Unblinded. So, why join? Like why step back from Cinduit and why go full on into Unblinded?
You gave me the chills just now, and I'll tell you why. So I'll never forget this moment. It was in October of 2019. Sean called me up one day and he said to me, Jared, I have a really important question. And there's no one that I know that is more qualified to answer this question than you. And I said, please, what's the question? And he said, what if you knew that you had the single greatest sales formula in the world and you wanted the world to know about it? And he just stopped. And I said, Sean, that's a really bold question. And he goes, I know. Now answer it. So I thought for about 3 seconds and I said, Sean, what shows up for me is this. I would launch a company with 5 divisions. The first division would be an online sales academy where we take your formula, we put it into modules, and then individual businesses can go through these modules or corporations can license them and have their entire company go through these modules. The second division that shows up for me would be what I call a done-for-you CRM. So a done-for-you CRM addresses the fatal fault of every single CRM on the planet, which is the assumption that people know how to follow up. And that's a very poor assumption. Alethea, you are a master of follow-up, but I know you know many people that are not, because that's the majority of the world. So the done-for-you version actually will guide people through the sales process, reminding them who to call and when to call and key concepts to address. And all of this is based off of artificial intelligence, data, and ultimately integrity-based human influence. The third division, immersive events, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day experiences. The fourth division, a certification program for people that see their future in this work and want to become sales coaches. And then the fifth division is outsourced sales. This is for the tens of thousands of businesses that plateau prematurely because they either don't know how to build a sales team, they don't want to build a sales team, or they don't have the resources, time or money to build a sales team. So it makes significantly more sense for them to outsource a portion or the entire sales process to train sales professionals. So I shared this 5-pillar business model with Sean, and he was absolutely silent. And then he looks me in the eyes and he says to me, Jared, what would it take for you to do this with me? And I literally took one deep breath and my response was this. I said, as you know, I didn't prepare anything for that question because you just threw it at me. So everything I just shared was like a stream of consciousness on my mind in real time. And as I was saying it out loud, all that I could think about was how we're meant to do this together. So let's launch. So we locked arms with another gentleman named Adam Gugino, and the three of us co-founded the company. You asked me what allowed me to step into that. And there was 2 things. One, I saw this from the perspective of adding more time for the thing that was most important to me, which is my family. And 2, this will change the world, and not in a rah-rah, hypey sense. I believe that sales is the single greatest pain for the majority of businesses, nonprofits, missions, and causes on the planet. I believe the inability to take somebody from hello to yes, when you know with certainty that what you're offering, product, service, mission, or cause, is better for them than where they are right now on their own. The inability to get to yes is the single greatest pain that change maker entrepreneurs, change maker employees experience. So when I met Sean and I saw that there was a formula that helps guide people through a process to go from hello to yes more optimally, that's easy and accessible, I saw that as a way to end suffering. And that is ultimately my drive in life, is to create a space where the people like each and every one of you that are listening to this podcast right now have freedom in their life. So you can live life on your terms. And when you learn influence, it is the single greatest superpower to begin the process to live life on your terms. So the combination of this adding to the things that were most important to me, plus positively disrupting the way the world looks at sales so that sales becomes fun, exciting, and magical for every person on the planet, made this a very easy decision for me to say yes.
Absolutely. And like how you frame that is beautiful. Like that's what it comes down to. So many people, I think so many people even on this listening to this podcast, it is their single greatest pain, not being able to convey the value that they have, not being able to, you could change someone's life with your product or your service, and yet they're stuck. They're not able to get over that hump of like, oh my gosh, should I? I'm scared. I've got these other things. I'm distracted. All kinds of reasons why people don't actually follow through and purchase a product or service, and to have that kind of clarity. And to me, this was a divine appointment, right? That you got your time freed up at the same time that Sean got his time freed up, and that you guys were both so passionate about this, and you bring different skills to the table. And that you had this vision for these 5 different pillars. And I think each of them brings something unique and different to the marketplace, and something incredibly needed and valuable.
You know what it is? It's really I've launched a lot of companies. I've never had something quite like this, where the founders and we also have another partner whose name is Fernando Valencia. I've never seen anything where a team can work this fluidly together. Like, we call ourselves the PayPal Mafia because PayPal was founded by the greatest tech entrepreneurs in history, all of which are now billionaires. But they didn't become billionaires because of PayPal. They became billionaires because of everything they did after PayPal. But it was the single greatest team in the history of tech that came together. And that's what UNBLINDED is. It is the single greatest team in the history of training within the domain of influence. And it's not about us. And that's probably the coolest thing. When Sean asked me if I'd launch with him, we got into a deeper discussion after I said yes. And I said, there's only 2 rules that I have for me to know that this is right. I said, rule number 1 is I ask that you recognize that I am 35 with a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and you're 50 with children that are going to college. So I'm not going to travel the world the way that you now can, and I'll build this company. And as long as you're okay with that, this works. And he said, Jared, I have no other way. And that says a lot about Sean's character, because Sean did not start this journey until he was 50, even though he could have started this 15 to 20 years ago. But if he started 15 to 20 years ago, he would have missed every soccer game, every dance recital, every after-school activity that he refused to miss, so that he intentionally postponed this chapter of his life so he can be dad first. So he completely understood where I was coming from. The second rule was, Sean, this can't be about you. This can't be about building your personal brand. I don't want it to be about me. It has to be building about everybody else, teaching a skill. And I want he understands that. This is not rah-rah. This is not personal development, although I love that, and I've invested enormous amounts of money and time into that. This is a skill. Learning influence is a trainable and learnable skill. So what we're doing is we're empowering people with a skill so they can begin their journey to mastery. And on that journey, you make more money in less time and with more magic. And I have never met anyone that doesn't want at least one of those 3, if not all of those 3 things in their life. So that's what this is about. It's not about Sean. It's not about me. It's not about Adam. It's not about Fernando. It's not about Alethea. It's about every individual person that is part of this movement, learning the skill and then deploying it with integrity to create good in this world. Whether that means selling more products and services, whether it means raising money for your mission or your cause, it means having a deeper and more meaningful relationship with your significant other, or it's all of that because you're learning the skill of influence, which transfers into all areas of your life.
Absolutely. And that you started this business with those two ground rules, right? And I think both of them are highly, highly important. And I love that you and Sean have the same view about fatherhood, right? Both of you committed to being there and being present. You were doing it while you're launching a company, and Sean chose to hold off on launching this company until after his kids were in college, which is beautiful. And that you guys are making it about the community, which is a whole other conversation about the momentum that you guys have. Why don't you just highlight a couple of things that you guys have been able to do in a short period of time, and then let's dive into some actionable strategies that people can do and start to taste this in their lives right now.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that I've been very, very passionate about as an entrepreneur since I became an entrepreneur was building a sense of community. So most people go through life feeling like they're living life on an island. And when you're a business owner, it's exponentially more painful often because most business owners don't have a place to go as like a safe space. Like if you're a business owner and maybe you're going home to your significant other and they don't get it, like you feel like you're on an island at home. And if you don't have other friends that are business owners, and most of them are more employee minded, which is not a bad thing, it's just different, they don't get it. So they don't understand the pressure, they don't understand the opportunity, they don't understand the vision, they don't understand the dark days. So creating a sense of community is critical, especially when you're teaching a skill like integrity-based human influence, which is sales. So we started by building a movement. It's a private Facebook community that grew to thousands and thousands of people like very, very quickly and with no effort. It just grew on its own. And what we built is that this community is comprised of people yearn to step into this community every day. And we literally get hundreds of testimonies a week from people saying like, this is the group that they go to in order to find peace, to get questions answered, to role play, to merge ecosystems at the highest level. So it all started with building the community. But from there, we started to recognize that it was important that that community was gaining access to different skills. So we've done for the past 200 plus days, a morning huddle every day at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. And all of you are welcome to join this. It's absolutely free and will always be free. We have the Unblinded Huddle. It's a 30-minute huddle every single day where we talk about process mastery, self-mastery, and influence mastery. And there's always one or two guests that are present, and we ask specific questions on how they scaled their business, how they deploy influence in their business, what type of self-made techniques and strategies do they use to show up ready and raring to go on a day-by-day basis. And the morning huddle is something that has grown to hundreds and hundreds of people in the live studio audience and thousands that watch the replay. Another step, make that sense of community while also deploying skills into the community to support each individual member. From there, we have a podcast that we actually launched just recently. Actually, we had the idea on a Monday morning. It launched by Tuesday morning. That's pretty crazy, but that's the kind of stuff we do. We take massive and seismic action. We also be closed on a 40,000 square foot building that was going to become our call center for outsourced sales. But with the whole pandemic that is present, we decided to delay the start date for that building, but we didn't want to delay the vision of what we were building. So we launched a virtual call center. We have dozens and dozens of people in that call center right now. We expect to hire about 200 more people. And why am I sharing all of this? Because there's a really important lesson for everybody. Most people put off their dreams and their aspirations and their ideas until the time is right, until it's just perfect. I believe in seismic action, and seismic is the key word. Taking little steps forward. It's making like jumps forward towards what you want to build. Even if you're not completely clear on where you're going, it's still about taking action to build momentum, because momentum builds on momentum. So when I share the things that we're doing, it's not to overwhelm you. It's not for you to start comparing like where you are to where we are. It's to motivate you to take seismic action. So we also have what we call our real raw sales role play. Every day we have two people typically from different industries, that are going live with us for a real raw sales role play, where they're actually role playing with each other, influencing each other. And then Sean is present during each of these sessions to help each person see what they don't see within their sales process. And what's fascinating about that is Sean is blind. So a blind man is helping sighted people see their blind spots in their sales process so they can become more optimal when it comes to going from hello to yes. What that is leading to is we're actually launching the American Idol of Influence. We're literally going to pitch this to networks, and it's going to be an influence off where every single week we have about a dozen people that are coming on for an influence off. And at the end of the year, there's going to be an influencer of the year, not in like the corny Instagram sense, but like in the real meaningful, I'm using influence for good sense. Like I'm influencing people to save children that are currently experiencing sex trafficking sense, like real tangible things that are happening in the world, and a whole variety of other initiatives that we're involved with as well. The moral of the story, though, don't put off whatever you want to do until the time is right. The time is right today to take some step, and I say a seismic step, in the direction of what you want to build. And I'm not here to hype you up. Like, if you want to get really tactical and practical, we can.
I do, yeah.
You do. I'm talking about doing stuff. Like the stuff that you're putting off until the time is right, like doing it today. And not just doing one thing, like maybe like doing like 6 things today to see what's going to land, and then you can go all in on the things that land. But that's what Unblinded is up to. It's up to a lot of things in this world.
And you are just so amazing. Like you said, seismic action. That is exactly what you guys do. You don't just talk about it. You do it. You thought of the podcast on Monday. It launched on Tuesday. You guys move at lightning speed. I've never seen a company move as quickly as you guys do. And you see what the need is in your marketplace. You see what the need is with your customers, and you go out there and you do it and you create it, and then you innovate and you keep making it better and better and better. And you keep getting the feedback and then innovating and making it better. So amazing. So, all right, everybody, I want you to, if you think that you've got influence, I want you guys to join the influence off. So these are morning huddles. I'll give you guys the link to the Unblinded huddles. Show up. 8:30 a.m. on, I think it's 8:30 a.m. Is that Eastern time? It's at 6:30 my time.
Eastern time, yes.
Eastern time. Yep. So show up. See if you could be the one that is crowned the influencer of the year, which could potentially be on TV networks. See if you have what it takes, and be willing to show up and learn and grow and improve your ability to influence others. All right, Jared, let's get into some real things that people can do. What are some of your favorite? There's so much stuff in there. So what are some of your favorite things that people can start to master right now?
Yeah, awesome. So the thing you should all strive to master is action. So like that should be like the ultimate goal is I want to become a master of taking action. So the next question is, well, what action should you take? So everybody should look at themselves from the perspective of I'm an expert in some subject, whether it's life, whether it's health, whether it's finances, whether it's real estate, whether it's more niche. And by being that, you offer a solution to people, but they don't even know you exist typically. So what I encourage everybody to do, especially if you are currently experiencing the pandemic when this interview goes live, start doing weekly webinars, and at the very least monthly webinars, where you pick subjects that fall into your expert status, whatever that might be, and you educate people for 45 to 60 minutes in a webinar environment with an open Q&A at the end. And that open Q&A typically is 15 to 20 minutes long. And the beauty of doing this is that every time you do a webinar, there's a product that is generated. And that product is a video file that you can now either archive on YouTube and put it on your website. So you have your own video library on your website. You could take it and put it inside of a membership platform or a learning management system. And then you can start selling courses based on the content that you're producing in a webinar format. You could have each of those webinars converted into an audio so you can launch your own podcast. And you could even have those webinars transcribed so that now you have transcriptions which can turn into white papers, which are then lead generation strategies for your website, all because you committed to doing at least one webinar every single month, if not even every single week. And if you're thinking to yourself, I have no idea even where to begin with webinars, I created a free course. It's free during this pandemic. Usually it's $97, so it's really inexpensive regardless. And I encourage you to sign up for it. It's www.webinarwizardry.com. It is currently free, and it's going to give you the how-to so that you know how to do this and what it looks like to market your webinars and host your webinars and follow up from your webinars. But one action step that I encourage everybody to take within the next 7 days is to schedule your first webinar and do it within the next 30 days. So schedule it within 7, do it within the next 30. And if no one shows up or one person shows up, I ask that you show up as if 1 million people are watching. Because the first webinar I ever did over a decade ago, I had one attendee, and that one attendee was my mom. That was it. And that one webinar with just my mom present, I pictured 1 million people watching, has produced over $1 million of business. And it's not about the number, it's about the impact. So I ask and invite you to step into your webinar wizardry and commit to doing at least one webinar every single month, if not even every single week. The time is so precious to do these right now, because even if the pandemic is over, by the time you hear this, there's still going to be this weird aura that exists in the world when it comes to social distancing and what the new norm is. And webinars, no matter what, will always fit into this new norm. So get comfortable now. That would be a massive action that each of you can take. Alethea, any questions on behalf of your audience on that?
I do. One question before we get to that. This is why I love working with you. You've got real, practical, actionable, common sense stuff to do that's going to make a massive difference. Look at the different ways that you said that you could repurpose it. So you do one webinar, you repurpose it for YouTube, your website, you turn it into potentially a membership site or an ongoing product, and convert it into audio files, convert it into transcribe it. I mean, the amount of content, you could probably produce 50 to 100 pieces of content from that one webinar. And then you could, like you recommended, do it every week, do it every month. This is a huge, huge thing that everybody can do. You know something that you are great at and that you have expertise in. So commit to doing this or doing something similar to this, whether it's videos on YouTube, whatever it is. Make sure you're getting yourself out there, adding value, sharing expertise. Make sure you do it. One question I do have is, what do you use to transcribe your audios into white papers?
Rev.com, REV.com.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. How about some sales training stuff? So give us some hello to yes strategies, some hello to yes things that are different tweaks that we can start thinking about and start applying in our lives.
Yeah. So what's so interesting about sales, and if everybody remembers from shortly before, I'm a really effective salesperson, and I always have been. I just couldn't teach it. So if anybody said to me, how do you achieve these results? I would never be able to tell them. I just do it. So I couldn't explain it, but now I can explain it. And where I would venture to say almost all salespeople go wrong is when they show up to a sales environment, whether it's one-on-one, in a supermarket, in a Starbucks, or it's one-on-many at an event, or it's in a Zoom environment. They go with this agenda, and the agenda typically is one that doesn't consider the feelings, desires, goals, fear of the person you're speaking with. So the key when selling is to start the process by building emotional rapport. And building emotional rapport means you're not talking about yourself, but you're asking specific questions to understand who you're actually speaking with. And that is the key, because once you understand where that person is at, where they have been, where they're going, where they are, what's working and what's not working, and you deeply listen, you genuinely care about what they're sharing, you can now guide the conversation to a place with integrity that leads them to a space where they're better off with you than without you. But where most salespeople lose opportunities is they come in telling their story, talking about their product, their service, their mission. And I always give this silly example. If you're trying to sell a hamburger to a vegan, it's not going to work. And you're not going to know if they're a vegan if you don't build emotional rapport with them. So if you go in selling your hamburger and how juicy it is and how it's from grass-fed meat and how that the farmers really care for their cows, and the person's a vegan, they're just tuning you out. And you're never going to know if you don't start the dialogue with a genuine interest in learning about them. And that's what we call build emotional rapport. And if you make that one change in your sales process where you start making it about them versus about you, you will see that you're now stepping into a space where your outcome is more optimal than it currently is. And I'm often on the receiving end of sales calls because I love it. Like we actually have a challenge at Unblinded where we'll like opt in for various things and we'll have people call us to sell us on whatever it is that they do. And they're always outside of the formula that we teach. So we don't buy and we follow up with them. We say, do you mind if we sell you on what you just sold us? And they're like, what does that mean? And we're like, just let us try. Like you just gave us enough knowledge to understand your product or service. Like, is there a chance that like a random person like me could actually sell you what you just tried to sell me and you weren't able to get me to say yes, but I can actually sell you on it? And they're like, sure. And like they show up with like a little bit of like arrogance and like, who do you think you are? And they make this process hard. And we always get to the place where they're like, how did you do that? Like, that's like magic. I'm like, no, it's not magic. It's actually a formula. It's called integrity-based human influence. We'd love to invite you to learn more about our programs so that you can begin to see what you don't see about your own sales process that we were able to clearly see by being on the receiving end of it. So it's really about understanding where has that person been? Where are they going? Where are they at today? What's working for them and what's not working for them? And don't just do it as like a formality. Don't just do it to like check the box. Like, okay, I asked these questions and now I'm going to start vomiting benefits. Do it so you can genuinely listen and hear like the emotion that they're not even telling you that's attached to what they're saying. And from there, it's going to become clear or clearer as to how you can help them or how you can't. And either option is great because if you can't, it's your moral responsibility to get them to say yes. And if you can't, it's your moral responsibility to guide them to someone who can help them. And that's what integrity-based human influence looks like.
I love it. There's so much in there, and we're rounding up our time here. Really understand when you can help people feel like you're actually listening to them, not like you have an agenda, not like you're trying to sell them or pitch them, not like you're trying to get back into, okay, yeah, great. Now let's talk about me. Let's talk about my product. Let's talk about why we're so great and what we're doing in the world. When you make it about them, when you make it about their dreams, their pain, their things that no one else is giving them the space and the time to talk about anywhere, the amount of connection that you have with them is just out of this world. And the opening that happens in their heart and in their mind towards what it is that you do have to offer and what maybe you could create together just skyrockets. So take this one seriously. Okay, I would love to dive into so much more, but we are coming to the end of our time. So Jared, you did mention that you have a free course right now. You said Webinar Wizardry. What is that address again?
It's webinarwizardry.com. I highly encourage everybody to go through it. It's free. Like there's nothing being sold to you, so it's just free. And this is the action that I want everyone to consider taking, whether you're listening to this during the pandemic or not. This is such an important and critical action. Commit to doing one webinar every month at a minimum, if not even every week, because the loudest and the most consistent voice will always win, especially during a pandemic when most people are petrified and overwhelmed. You rising, stepping into your legendary, using this as an opportunity to serve at an even higher level while always remaining like empathetic to the fact that there are people suffering will allow you to step on the other side of this pandemic, because there is an other side to this, where you're sprinting versus like picking up the pieces of your life. So that's the starting point. There's dozens of other things you should do as well. Come to our morning huddle at unblindedhuddle.com. We share tons of ideas, strategies, what's working, what's not working. We interview brilliant people like Alethea. We have other people that are showing up to challenge people for an influence off. It's fun. It's high energy. There's no better way to start your day than that. Alethea, I want to honor you again. What you're doing with this podcast is you absolutely stepping into your legendary. And it's my honor to be present. It's my honor to share you and your gifts with my ecosystem because I know they're going to benefit immensely from all that you are in this world. I appreciate our friendship and our business relationship as well. You are like the gold standard when we come to an ecosystem partner because you just like get it. And it's just my honor to be present with you today.
Jared, thank you. That feels so good to get that recognition. And it's right back at you. Like, you are a man on fire. You held nothing back today. You have intensity. You have energy, and it ignites the sense of possibility and hope. You know, the world needs what you have right now. And I'm not just talking about Unblinded and Cinduit. They need what's in your heart. You know, people need to feel that love. They need to find someone that's going to help them to live that best life that they're thinking of, that they want, that they've been sacrificing so much for, that freedom, right? Like you said, step into your legendary. You are someone that can take people there. And I'm so grateful to have you as a friend, to have you as a business partner. And let me tell you, this is just the beginning of your journey. Your impact is going to be felt worldwide, and you are showing everybody not just, you know, what it looks like to be an amazing businessman, what it looks like to enormously scale and grow a business and help other people's companies and businesses and careers do the same thing. But you're also showing people what it looks like to have family as number one, right? The importance of what it looks like to love your wife, love your children, and make that a priority and set boundaries in your life that are going to serve you and serve everybody else. So thank you so much for giving the best of you to your family and to us. I just so appreciate it.
It is my honor. And as we always say, this is simply the beginning. The best is yet to come. So thank you for all that you do. And I'm excited to continue to go deeper with you into your work and to share you with as many people as possible.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Life and Business Mastery Podcast with Alethea Gallegos. What is one action that you can take today to create more impact, greater freedom, and better results in your life and business? Don't just think about it. The secret is to take action. Also, be sure to check out the notes for today's show for links to the powerful resources mentioned today by going to www.themasterypodcast.com. If you like our show, be sure to share it so that we can help even more people start and grow the business of their dreams.